Welcome back to the studio. I'm just in between jobs at the moment, so we've just done a shooting stint here and we're potentially going to be on location for 10 to 15 days and then we've got some more work here. So I've actually got kit in my bags, which is not usual. Normally it lives out and about and just ready to go, but I've had to pack some away, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to show you what's in my bag, why it's in my bag, how I use it, and a few little pro tips and tricks that we go for. Now, coincidentally, one of the big shoots we might have coming up soon, none of this kit will be used at all. We're using completely different kit because it needs to match someone else's work. So we're going to have to use the exact same kit they did. So we'll rent the whole lot in, but it's good to own some kits anyway. So we'll start with the main camera and sort of work our way down. Now this beast here, if I just slide him in, this is my go-to and most common setup. So much so that it actually lives on the tripod, it doesn't come off. It is a Canon 5DS at the back here, and it's almost like a rotating back like the old Mamiya, so you can swing it round. I've got a video on this camera here. This is a Cambo Actus in the middle. This gives us bellows, so we can do all those fancy like lens movements. And on the front of this, we've got a 90mm, and it is a f3.2, 3.5 lens. And these here, this little bit on the front, this is my bellows extension. Because some of the work I do, we get some weird lens angles because of the movements, so having a bellows that you can control, that's quite useful for allowing as much or as little flare as you want. But this here is pretty much my go-to at the moment. The 90mm, the 5D on the back, bellows for the lens hood, and bellows for focusing and lens movements. Now, the extra bit I've added to this is just here. I was mains powering this camera, but the mains cable kept coming unplugged. So now we're running it off those, is it LP6 or EP6? No, NP6 I think. The big Sony batteries, you know, the big ones for videos, the ones that you're using your lights. You sit one of these in here and this will run for a full day on one battery, which is fine. It's the same as charging, but without the additional cable for people to kick and trip over. Then I've got about 10 meters of Tether Tools cable here. And we then have a powered booster at the computer end, which lives over here on the tether table. I'll do a whole video on the tether table, but here's the tether table. And yeah, it's a pretty simple setup, nice and easy to use. This stand here is a Manfrotto large salon stand. So it just means that we can just easily move the camera up and down to whichever bizarre height we need. And once it's in place, it's definitely staying there. Now the extra thing I've done here, because sometimes it's not convenient to go to the computer to fire it for whatever reason, I've got a trigger which is Velcroed onto my stand. And this just allows me to fire the camera from here, should it be easier than then walking back round to get to the tether machine to fire it from there if we don't have a digital tech who can fire it for me. So obviously after the main camera, we'll go through the main camera bag. And this here is a newish one actually. It's a Think Tank roller bag. It's the Airport Security. These are great bags. I'll show you my other one in a bit, which I've actually had for 15 years, or at least since whenever they brought it out. But here we go. So in here I have my main lenses for shooting. This rather beautiful one, this is the 50mm f3.2. I use this lens when I want distortion. Not necessarily because I want more in the shot, but because I normally end up getting closer with this lens so it distorts the image and gives it that real hero vibe. It's really good for looking up. I don't necessarily use wider lenses to get a wider shot, although that's what this video camera's doing. When I'm shooting stills, I more often than not use a wider lens to get some distortion in there. And the 50mm is the widest I really go. I do have a 35mm prime as well, which we'll get to, but this is probably the widest I'll go to. This is a Mamiya Secor, very good bit of glass. And because it's a 6x7cm negative designed for this lens, I'm only using the very center of it on like a small 35mm camera, so really good optical quality. Then I have my telephoto lens, which is the 127mm, and this is an f3.2 as well. You don't really get fast lenses for medium format because nothing would be in focus. Again, this is a beautiful lens. It's a bit soft around the edges, and that's why I have this and the 90. They're very similar in what they do, but this one here has a real gooey, dreamy look to it, which sometimes you need, sometimes you don't. So it's in the bag for when I need that. I'd more often than not use the 90 over it though. Then in here, I've got a whole bunch of power sources. So like, this is a mains power for a Canon camera. I've got the box for my Cambo Actus. I've got some bellows and extension tubes for the Mamiya should I need it. And then I've got my polarizers, and these are NISI or NICE polarizers, and I have a stack of these. Now, pro tip, when you're buying polarizers, buy the biggest polarizer you can find. It's going to cost more, but you then buy the stepping ring, so every single lens will work with the biggest polarizer. Don't buy one which fits your lens exactly, just buy bigger and an adapter. That way you're future-proofing it. Now these here we use a lot because we do a lot of cross polarization, which is where we might have a 3-light setup, but one of the lights I don't want the reflection in the glass. So we'll put polarizing gel just on that light, and that kind of keeps the reflection from that either down or completely out, and you can control how much it is because they're circular. You sort of twisty them around like this. I'm doing a bit of dance now. But these are very good. I particularly like is this one here. Let me get the name for you. That's it. This is the natural color one. These are really good. You can get, there's like 5 or 6 different polarizers. I'll do a whole video on these because they deserve a video in themselves, but big polarizers, these are what, 82 millimeters, something daft like that. Quite pricey, but you buy it once and that's it. You just need the one polarizer. I have a few because I'm me, but you just need one big polarizer and a load of stepping rings. So that's my main bag. The camera on the tripod, if we were going out to shoot with it, that would come in here as well. There's space for that one body in there, and that is my main bag. This would always be present on a shoot. It's very important I have that. And it's quite carefully crafted in terms of what's in there. Now what you will notice is there's no memory cards. I don't use memory cards. We shoot straight to a computer and that computer auto backs up to 2 hard drives. It's all done in that way for my sort of work, but if you did need memory cards, pop them in your bag as well. Also notice no batteries. They're all on charge. Got like a little charging station in the corner over there. Okay, so bag number 2. This is my original think tank. This has been all over the world with me on shoots. It's been in airplanes above, as they're designed to be, and then when some airplanes have been tricky or air service has been tricky, it's gone in the belly of the plane full of kit and it's all come out fine. So in here, this is my behind the scenes-y and backup kit. So you can see at the top here, we've just got some XLR cables for the microphones that I'd be using for YouTube videos, although not for this one. Stuff him back in. I've got a little Tascam here, which is what we record audio to, and often we do backup audio into this, so it can just be running as a separate with an XLR mic into it, and that will just be a just in case. If we're recording something which we can only do once, these are pretty useful. I've had this for ages. It's pretty good. Then this here, this is a cage. I've really got into cages recently. So you'll probably know I often run a time lapse during a shoot. We'll put the cam for the time lapse in the cage and then we can just rig it up with everything on there, put another one of these big batteries on it. Just have everything in one place. It's not all dangling all over the place. Very useful bit of kit. Thoroughly recommend getting into cages if that's your bag. I've got a little Gorilla Pod, which I don't think I've ever used because they kind of bend, but it sits in there anyway. And then we've got the spare cameras. So this is another 5DS, and you'll see this cable just coming out the back of it. This is so I can bus power it, so I can just plug it into another power source. And this is my backup one. It's actually been more heavily used. I kind of rotate them back and forth. But again, very good bit of kit, very good camera. Bang for buck is ridiculous. Then here we have an old 70D, which has got the flippy outy screen. If I want to do some vlogging type stuff, which I've not done for about a year, I used to do it. Maybe I should do some more of it. If you want to see some more of that sort of stuff, let me know in the comments. But it's a decent camera. It's not great for stills, but for video, it's got brilliant autofocus. So I really enjoy using it for that. Then we have the backup lenses. So what you've seen in here is my Mamiya lenses. These are my Canon lenses. Now the first one we've got is the 17-40, which is what's filming this. That's the f4L lens. Then next up we have the 24-70. This is the 2.8L lens as well. I don't remember the last time I used this, but it's a nice bit of kit to have just in case, especially for behind the scenes stuff. If you need a photographer to be doing some run and gun behind the scenes stuff, this lens will get them out of most predicaments. Then the final zoom lens is the 70-200 2.8. This is the Mark 1. The Mark 2 is a bit better, the Mark 3 is a bit better, but they're not better enough to consider buying one. So this is the Mark 1. Chunky bit of kit. I use this a lot when I used to shoot musicians at festivals, but I don't actually remember the last time I used it, so probably one for eBay. Then we have probably the most used lens I own. This is my 35 1.4 from Sigma. I don't use it anymore for commercial work, but when I used to do environmental portraits and that sort of thing, this came out a lot, especially when I did documentary work with bands. It's a great storytelling lens, but it's also great for time lapse. So if you put it at like f2 and you shoot a 50 megapixel time lapse of a behind the scenes, when you render this out, it's a really different look to most people's time lapses. So very, very nice bit of kit. And I had this since the day it came out. It's one of the few things I bought brand new. And yeah, I don't think I'll ever sell it because I like it so much. It's a shame that my new video camera is APS-C size, otherwise this would be on there now. So maybe I'll be swapping it for a 20mm. Don't know, we'll see. We've then got the cheapo 85 1.8. This was my go-to lens when I was a portrait photographer and photographing commercial work in that sense. It's much faster than the 1.2 was back then, because back then we only had the 1.8 or the 1.2, and the 1.2 was focused by wire, and you're not getting anything in focus at 1.2. But this lens here, I've shot book covers with it, I've shot food with it, I've shot all sorts with it. It's a really good bit of kit. I've had it a very long time. It's actually aged quite well considering it's predominantly built out of like plastic, but thoroughly recommend this if you're into portraits. Very good bit of kit. And then finally, we have my backup 100mm lens. Now, you've not seen my main 100mm lens yet, but this is the backup. This is the Canon 100 2.8 non-L macro. I don't have the L version. The difference between this and the L version is very small, but the difference between this and my main 100mm lens that you'll see later is considerable. But it's got good autofocus. I've shot worldwide billboards on this. I've shot point of sale on this. I've shot all sorts on this. I made a lot of money with this lens. And for the price, it's definitely been worth it. I'd thoroughly recommend it. So that's the behind the scenes lot. That's all in there. Doesn't really come out that often unless we're shooting something really big and we want to show it off, but it's there for when we need it. You don't need this probably, unless you're shooting big productions. You probably don't need a behind the scenes kit. You can get your assistant to bring their own. But I like to know that if we're telling a client we're producing behind the scenes work, that the kit is mine. I know what works and what doesn't work. I've got the memory cards, the batteries and all that sort of stuff ready to go. So just nice to have. Okay, now this is a backpack, which I don't often use backpacks, but this only contains one camera, and this is my film camera. So we'll do a quick look in here. You're probably going, well, why have you got a film camera in here? Well, I do actually shoot quite a bit of film. At my last food shoot, I was actually using this film camera on it. So this is the Bronica ETR-SI, and it's got a 75mm lens. I wouldn't use this for commercial work. It's more of a fun time hobby thing, but the last test shoot this came out, we shot some XR100. Hoping to get the shots back soon. Pretty pleased with it. This is my first ever camera. I've got a whole video on this, but nice bit of kit. Which brings us through, let's just clear some space, eh? Wait. To my final one. This is a Pelicase 1550. And this bad boy here is my video case. It has got the lid storage here and the standard framey bits here. Bought these from Hong Kong. They cost about 50 quid in total, which is like £300 cheaper than the Peli ones. Peli cases are great. So this contains my new camera, which is what I'm filming on now. And this is the Blackmagic Pocket Camera 6K. Not that pocketable. And we've got an external monitor, we've got power sources, microphone jazz, all that good stuff. And then in here, we've got the rest of the cage accessories. We've got the tilter autofocus, which is wireless, which is very nice to use. It also means that if I need to focus something from a top-down food shot, I can have this off camera and still focus my camera, which is very useful. Then I've got the rails, which I'm not currently using, so I don't need this much stuff on there, which has the autofocus attached. Obviously, I'm not using autofocus for video like this because we'll be hunting everywhere. And I'll just be twiddling a knob. But yeah, rails, very useful. I won't go too much into the video stuff because it's also new to me. We've then got my Rode microphone, and this is the one I do actually use for my YouTube videos normally. But obviously it doesn't work if I'm moving around. This is the NTG2. It's a very good microphone. It makes my audio sound good with very little effort. And one of the benefits to this new camera, it's got a really good preamp in there. So the audio synced in is already pretty good. Now I'm just using some cheap mics at the moment. I'm on some Lensgo mics, which they do the job. But when I want decent wireless, I've got in here a Rode set of wireless mics and lavaliers. charging cables, all just neatly stored away. Pretty useful stuff. Up top here, we have got some adapter rings, mains, bus power, got some tape here. This tape, this is what we use to hold the mic in place. I don't know if you can see it there. There's my microphone taped in. Goes inside this little gummy thing, and then this tape here, it's just a medical tape, holds it in place, and it stops it getting too rustly, because I can't clip a microphone on, because my beard just sort of ruins the footage. The audio. Then we've got loads of audio cable adapters in there. And then the last thing in here is my main 100mm lens. When we need those really beautiful video shots and really gooey sort of nice images, this is the Zeiss Macro Planar 100mm f2. This would be my go-to lens if we didn't need the bellows. This would be on the 5 DSRs. Beautiful bit of kit. I can't part with it. It's too nice. I don't need it anymore because I've got the 90mm Sekor and the 100mm Canon. This is just a grand sat around doing nothing, but it is a beautiful bit of kit, so can't bear to part with it. Now, this is obviously not everything. We have all the GoPros and the gimbals, sliders, and all that sort of stuff as well, but this is the main bits in my bag. Now, I've got obviously a lot of kit here, but there's a few reasons for that. One is I now do YouTubing as well, and this actually makes me a reasonable income. So I have had to invest a little bit, not in terms of getting better footage, but faster footage, because I don't have enough time to put into this to make it worthwhile otherwise. So it's got to be a quick, fast, and sort of an efficient a process as possible. The other reason is I live in Leicester. Leicester, we don't have a rental house here. If I need kit, I have to rent it from London or Birmingham. So having it here makes it a bit easier, but when I am shooting in London or Birmingham, I will just rent, I'll say Birmingham, I don't shoot in Birmingham, but when I'm shooting in London, I'll just rent the kit there in the studio and I'll turn up and it'll all be there. I don't travel with all of this. It's only if I'm going to a small city that I'd take my own kit. So this stuff hasn't really left here since lockdown began, which was quite some time ago. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope it's been a useful insight. If you have enjoyed it, let me know in the comments below. If you have more questions about any of this kit, also let me know. And if you'd like me to do a video on all the lighting kit I own or all the grip I own, whatever it may be, pop it in the comments. I always read it. Even if I don't reply, I will be reading it. And I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.